Buckle up, you beauties, because we're about to dive deep into the world of all things hockey.
Pigeon!
A greasy pigeon isn't just any old bird. It's a message. It's letting the other guy know exactly where they stand. And it is not meant to be friendly.
You guys are sensitive over there.
And now, from the Pigeon's Nest, your hosts, Jeff Sullivan and Kevin Trussler. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Greasy Pigeon Podcast. I am your host, Jeff Sullivan, as always, here with Kevin Trussler. And today, segment one, we are joined by a very special guest, friend of our hockey connoisseur and Swede/Finn, he'll get into that, Sami Terho. Welcome to the Pigeon's Nest, my friend.
Oh, thank you. Finally, you made it work.
Absolutely. I know we've been asking for a few times here and there. Schedules are what they are. Here he is. He's on. And we are going to start with something we talked about last week. Sammy, I'll come to you first. I'm just going to prompt you with this. Stammer, not re-signed by the Lightning. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. What do you think? Look, I'm on the total fire JVB bandwagon here. Already got my swagger. Bolts is behind me now. Can't do that anymore. Come on. I mean, we're talking about the legend, right? This is a franchise player, and and I'll say what every other intelligent fan in this town says, how can you trade him? For nothing. Okay?
Well,
you start.
yeah, I guess essentially, well, they didn't trade him, right? They let him go. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
that's what happened. So you're saying that, wait, what happened?
he was free. He was like, free, fly, birdie, fly.
Oh, he decided. It was his choice.
Oh, so it's Stammer that's the one here. I gotcha. All right.
I'll put my hat back on. Do you really? You know me better than that. Would I ever root for the name in the back, right? It's all about the chest, right? It's all about the chest. Hey, guys, listen. It's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. I mean, come on. It's legend, obviously. I mean, he led this team to 2 cups. He was drafted here. He's played his entire career. And I truly believe sincerely that he wanted to end his career. But I think what gets lost is that it takes 2 to tango, right? It's a negotiation. And I have my theories. I have a few ideas. I have a little bit of insight, just a touch, just a little. And it sucks. But honestly, this team is better now than it was a year ago.
Well, and I think what the issue is we're in the space of the emotional fan versus the non-emotional business side of the sport, right? And we all want to see our captain stay. Bergeron, Crosby is going to get re-signed this offseason. Both sides have basically come out and said he's not going anywhere. They're keeping him in Pittsburgh. And Crosby's probably texting Stammer on the side, thanking him for not staying in Tampa because that's going to make Sid get a lot more leverage in his negotiation to stay in Pittsburgh. But you look at the numbers, right? He got 8 a season from Nashville. He's wasn't going to get 8 from Tampa. But I think where the fans are looking at it, you didn't give Stammer 8. Whether he wanted 8, he would have taken 6. You don't know necessarily all the conversation. But you gave Hedman his number, which was 7. 4 times 8 for 32.
4 times
and you gave Getzel 9. AAV $9 million. So the fans looking at it going, well, you obviously had the money to give to somebody. Why not give it to Stammer? What are your, Kevin, start with you. What is your response from the boardroom? You're now JBB's assistant GM. What's your response to the fan base with that kind of mindset coming at the team?
Well, we talked a little bit about it last time, right? Like you've got a 29-year-old in Getzel and a 34-year-old in Stammer, right? So 5 years difference. Look, there's still tread on the tires with 91, no doubt. He showed that he can still get it done. But from a business perspective, it was the right move. I mean, as painful as it is to live in the Tampa Bay area and see yet another captain of, longevity not finish their career in a Bolts uniform, it's business. It's business, baby. And at the end of the day, I know I say that all the time, but that's what it comes down to. You've got, a 5 year difference in age with Getzel. I'm a big Getzel fan. I think the fans down here may not know him as well. I know he's been with Pittsburgh, and he was with the two cups with Pittsburgh when they won back in the day. Was a huge acquisition at the deadline for the Hurricanes. Led the Hurricanes, I believe, in scoring. He was the belle of the ball when July 1st came, and the Bolts did it again. I mean, they tend to pull off some doozies on free agent day, and I think when it's all said and done, the fans will be happy. It sucks to see 91 go, but at the end of the day, if you want to stay competitive in this league, you have to stay, young. You can't be buried by bad contracts. And they were able to wheel themselves out of a deep. They were up against the cap, right, for the past couple of years, and they were able to wheel some magic. And I think Brisebois did a good job. Whether people are throwing darts at him right now still or not.
There's a lot of emotion, obviously, right? But hey, you said Pittsburgh. All right, let's look at Pittsburgh. They did the exact opposite. They re-signed all their old stars, everybody, all the big names, and they're outside looking in the playoffs. Do you think even with 87 that they're gonna suddenly make the playoffs and make a big run here next year, a year older? or you want to be Toronto saying, look, no, next year is different. This is our year, right? And nothing changes. So I'm looking at it this way. The easy move would have been to keep Sergachev, re-sign Stammer, and then do the best of what you have left, right? Everybody's happy. Well, what I'm seeing is the same team that lost in the first round 2 years in a row, right? Is they're now suddenly going to go on a run 1 year later with the same exact team? So something had to change, right? And you're up against the cap. It just sucks it was Stammer. It could have been someone else. Now, in fairness, Kevin, you and I talked about it before too, right? Everybody else with significance in that team got their deals done a year early, right? And Stammer did not. The same thing last year. Now, if my memory serves correctly, last time around it was him holding back, and he was talking to Toronto, and it was there was a lot going on, and then ultimately he did sign an extension for 8 years, and then guess what happened the next day? On the first day, Hedman signed his deal, right? So it sucks, but look at what you got, right? So play that movie. We get Stammer and Sergachev back, but there's no Gensel, there's no Geeky, there's no Moser, there's no Mac, right? So we're running the same team back. And what JBB did was, in my opinion, he looked at it already a year ago. That's when Stammer came on and said, hey, he didn't reach out to me. I'm like, hey, I don't know what the cap is going to be. I don't know what this team is about. We know we need to change if it doesn't. And what we were lacking? Defense, right? Not only defensemen, but defense as a play. That have been Stamkos' absolute strength, right? And you look at this roster and go like, all right, this could make it happen, right? Now, who takes the biggest risk right now? JVB. So he's willing to put his balls in the block because guess what? If this team misses playoffs, he's the one who gets shipped.
Well, I think that's just it, Sammy. If they make it, all the fans forget about Stammer walking out. They forget about all this drama. If they go deep run or whatever, then it's a non-issue. And if it goes the other way, then you're calling for JBB's head, right? 100%. And to your point about defense, Vasilevsky, the last 2 seasons, have had the worst statistical seasons since his second year in the league, where he played 24 games, right? So the defensive structure, the back end, which was their bread and butter during the 19 through 23 era, 2 cups, 3 finals, all that, it just hasn't been there. So let's fast forward. Sergachev's gone. That's a cap dump. Mm-hmm. Now, they signed him last year. So did they make their bet a year early in that and then got stuck, and now you're forced to trade that guy? Because he wasn't not helping you defensively. He was your future behind Hedman. So you got older on the D-core because you had to get rid of the young Sergachev. How do you kind of tie that with this move, Sammy, and what they're kind of doing on the back end?
I think this, I didn't say this, but JVB is a robot. There's no feelings. It's all business, right? What's the right move? So, what gets lost in this drama Stammer knew this was kind of writing on the wall, right? You listen to this interview, it's like hope, wanted to make it work, but if you think that he got that offer from the Predators 7 in the morning that day, and he talked about his whole pros and cons and discussing with his wife, I didn't do that in 2 hours, right? This was on the table as his alternative, right? Sergachev was blindsided, and some reliable Russian sources, and I think we all know who I'm talking about. Yeah, he's Sergey is not happy, right? He did not see this one coming, and this was the last chance KBB had because his no trade clause kicked in 3 days later.
Well, and he just signed. Yeah. That was the second year of his 8-year deal, right?
No. This is his
was
deal
it the first
kicked
year?
in. Yeah,
oh,
I think
okay.
so. Even if it wasn't the first year, his no trade clause kicked in. So this was it, right? If you're gonna make a move now, is it? And he got blindsided. There's another Russian on that team that's not very happy either. Is apparently pissed, but and I kind of.
Let me ask you this: like, okay, so we take away feelings and all that, right?
Yeah.
Stammer's been your captain. You're saying JBB's a robot. I totally get it. You have to be, right? It's business, not
it's his
hey,
job.
we can when it's all said and done, and at the end of Stammer's, interview or statement, he's like, this is temporary. This, these feelings will go away. Tampa Bay will always be his home. Do you not owe it to him, maybe? And maybe this is just like, the fun Canadian kumbaya in me, like to say, hey, bud, look, we're not going to sign you. So, we can do one of two things. You can stay here and we can try to run it back this 1 year, and you can have a great career year and make yourself a ton of money next year. Or do we look to trade you at the deadline?
I don't think. Well, you mean that must have happened last year, right? So this should have set up last summer.
Going into this past season.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But the drama was there at Christmas time, specifically when he went up to Toronto for the first time, and it's a fishbowl there, and they're talking about the not infighting, but just the tension in the room, just that he doesn't have a deal done. As it got closer to the deadline, I don't know, maybe that conversation did happen, but
there's rumors there were. They wanted to trade it to Vegas. I mean, there's a bunch of rumors. The other thing, we don't know how this negotiation. We don't even know what the offer was. Let's be real, right? Yes, there's the $3 million 8 years out there. Who knows if that's true, right? Brisbane has never confirmed that, nor has Stammer, right? If you ask me, this is where the conspiracy theorist comes in, right? And this is everything to do with Hedman, right? They came in as a bundle, right? They signed pretty much the same deal 8 years ago. And it came down to the wire with Stammer, and then Hedman signed immediately, right, within a week after, because he was allowed to sign early, right? I don't see it as a coincidence that they both have the exact same deal, just with different teams. So I think that Stammer always had the 8-4 in his mind, right? And the fact that they didn't negotiate last summer, no GM doesn't do his job if he doesn't know what the ask is going to be, right? So if he knew a year ago that Stammer wants 4 years, this was never about money. I think this was about term, because he was offered 24. Remember, NHL is guaranteed money, and this is where the fan base here doesn't get it, right? Because they only see the dollar value for the year; they don't think about the entire contract. So he was, according to that 3 times 8, right? That's 24 versus the 4-8, and he got 32. Right, that $8 million difference. I think if he was willing to accept an 8-year deal, Brisbane would have bumped it to 4, and he would have matched it. I don't think it was about that. I think it was about the dollar value short term, because he wanted a shorter deal. Why? God knows. I have no idea. I know that Hedman got it, and those two, and Hedman, everything but admitted it in that interview, how much they had talked about the situation, the contracts, and Hedman knew what he was getting. There's no way they negotiated that like 3 days. But I think they knew a lot earlier. And I think everybody put a lid on and said, hey, let's deal with this drama after the season's ended, rather than, that's professionalism, right?
Well, and I think there's a bit of Stammer betting on himself too, right? Like if he has a down year, if he only scores 15 and maybe has 50 points, your value goes way down. Instead, you get 40 and 81 points, I think it was. Yeah, it's not a bad for a 34-year-old. Hey, someone's going to pay him.
Kevin, do you remember what you said when we talked about this after the drama at the beginning of the season? And I said, hey, maybe Brisbane is actually pushing buttons here, right? They're going, hey, if I don't give this guy a deal right now, he's going to have a chip on his shoulder all season. He's going to give him his best, because either he's going to prove himself to get a contract here, or he has a contract season he goes and get negotiated, right? And then fast forward, 81 points. He was the high scorer in that short run against Florida.
He was the best player on the ice for the
Yeah.
Lightning in that series.
And
So,
you know, did that motivate him? Maybe it did. There's so much we don't know.
Yeah.
Right? And there's so much speculation. But clearly, you know, bottom line is this team is more exciting now than it was before. It sucks that it had to be Stammer. Again, Sergachev, he gets lost in this whole thing. Yeah, you know, he that's not cool for him either, right? But you know, again, it's a business. We look at a better roster. The only thing that nags me is Stammer seems always, because this isn't the first, right? This is more of the last. If you go back, you know, when Cooper came on and his favorites were, you know, the Palats and Johnsons, and you know, remember that when you know, rumors were that Stamkos was unhappy. He wasn't playing center, you know, and didn't get all the attention, right? So
it was all guys that played for Cooper, right? Before,
right? Exactly right.
In the end,
he was hired by JVB. You know, all those guys came through the system, which was JVB's baby, right? And then was it 19 when they lost in that first round and got swept, and Cooper had just got extended like right before the playoffs.
Yeah,
I remember I met JVB a few times right around the ranks. And he comes over, we talk a little bit, and I just bit my tongue going, like, fucking idiot. How can you sign a coach before the playoffs? Right? Because at that point, they couldn't fire him. So what did they do? They fired the entire coaching staff, including his bonus. Well, guess who Stamkos' guy was? He spent freaking Thanksgiving in Bonus's house every year because they lived down the street from him. You know, what is it? I don't know. There have been pros enough not to, like, let that impact their game. But I don't know. It is weird that everybody else always got signed early. There's always been a little friction there. Yeah.
I hope the takeaway is, at least for, you know, the guys that were in the room that were younger, Stammer, what a professional. I mean, if there was any tension, you didn't see it at all. He leaves town with his head held high. I mean, has an unbelievable year and, you know, an unbelievable playoff as far as, you know, his effort and what he did in the playoffs. And, you know, I think hopefully that's a lesson for the younger guys that are coming up on contracts. And, you know, you got to let the agents take care of the business part. You got to take care of business on the ice, and don't let that affect you. Probably a lot easier said than done. But at the end of the day, you're paid to play a game and you're paid to produce, and, you know, that's what the agents are for.
Yeah, and that interview that we were referencing can be found on our socials, on our TikTok channel and our Instagram channel, if you want to review it. But what the takeaway from that interview to me was, you know, like you said, Sammy, he started the conversation. He even said it during the preseason, and they thought they could get something done then, and nothing happened. And even in the interview, he says that was when the writing on the wall really started for him. And I think, to your point, he pretty much knew he was on his way out, barring something, who knows, during the season, whether his play was just so good they couldn't get rid of him, or he couldn't play at the high level anymore for whatever reason, catastrophic injury, who knows. So maybe he, in his heart of hearts, knew he wasn't coming back, but he still seems, and maybe he's just a great actor, very heartbroken, very upset that he's not back, that he didn't get offered back, that maybe they didn't treat him with the respect that a long-term veteran captain and franchise player should be treated with, not like Crosby was, not like some of these other guys throughout history. Bergeron was treated really well through the Bruins. And then you pair that with Hedman gets his deal, and they're about the same age. Hedman 33, Stammer's 44. They both got 4 years in two different spots.
34, not 40.
34 and 33. Thank you. Sergachev gets shipped out of town just at the drop of a hat. Do you think there's something there? Now let's put our players hat on, right? We've talked as a fan, we've talked as the front office. Now let's go into that locker room, right? Do you think there's players in that room looking at the front office and starting to question the respect the office has for the players in that room?
Yes.
And is it warranted?
I do.
So it's an interesting take. Honestly, you saying that, because I heard, this was through another channel, that the Lightning have now become the Las Vegas Golden Knights, as far as their cutthroatness and trying to make it done. And I don't know if they're at that level yet. I don't.
Nah,
I think
nah.
they're smart. It's chess, right? And I didn't mean to jump in on you, Sammy, but the Sergey deal actually kills me because I am a big Sergey fan. I thought you have a young defenseman that, although he was minus last year and he suffered a bad injury, he was one that I think suffered the most with losing some of the top D that the Lightning had, those stay-at-home D. But, his offensive numbers were always there. Like, he wasn't necessarily that shutdown D, and I think he was put in a situation last year where he had to play more, defensive minutes, where he didn't have, McDonough to bail him out, right? And last year, I think he might have been a little bit exposed from a defensive standpoint. But you look at his offensive numbers, man. He's a producer when it comes from a D man.
Sure.
64 points, 38 points, 30, 34. He's a plus throughout his career except for last year. And I think last year's an asterisk year just because of the lack of defensive defensemen that they had or defensive forwards.
No, but I think you're right. But as I said, like, I think, the Stammer drama, then that whole, Sergachev situation got lost, right? You're right. I mean, that must feel horrible for him, right? That's just that Stammer, like, he's been around longer, right? But Sergachev, what did Lightning need to address? Not putting or letting goals into your net, right? And you can look at a lot of those replays, and a lot of them were on Sergachev, right? Positioning from net, offensively, amazing, right? We're potentially Eric Carlson level, like you're the best right winger who's playing D in the league, right? But what did Lightning need? You have a Hedman putting up 85 points. He put up more points than Stammer did, right? And he's not done. And here's where you have to make a decision. I don't know if it was so much about Gansel versus Sergachev. I think it was Hedman versus Sergachev, right? And because they could have done the same to him, go like, hey, we need to get younger. Sergachev's ready to take your role. See ya, right? We have one of the top defensemen. I mean, what was it, fourth, fifth in a ballot for Norris? There you go, right? It wasn't talked about because he was right below that. That's where Sergachev is going to be one day, right? But he wasn't there yet. Now, by the way, he's going to be the number one by a mile, right? In his new situation, he's probably going to. And Hedman did say that in an interview, right? Look, he's not behind me now. I mean, a little selfish to say that, but it's true, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
It sucked too, right? But cutthroat like Vegas, yeah, Vegas-esque, but I don't know, because again, fans, look at they shipped away, Vinny, and they shipped away Marty, and they shipped away Stammer. Like, no, guys, just three completely separate situations. Yes, Vinny got bought out. That's all. 26, he asked for a trade. Let's be real. Let's be real. We can argue why, but he did ask for a trade in the middle of a playoff run. So, all right, he's still 26, right? I haven't forgiven him yet. In this case, it was about the re-signing. So it's three completely different situations. I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying that you can't just say that it's cutthroat like Vegas, man.
But so if they're winning, non-issue. Covered that earlier. If things will keep going, no problem. People will come. They want to sign players, want to play for them because they're winning. They have that culture of winning. I mean, I was a Patriots fan, right? On the NFL side, Bill Belichick was as pretty much cutthroat as it gets. He would cut you on game 4 so you didn't get some game plays bonus, and then he'd re-sign you week 10 to finish the season and go into the playoffs. Like, that's how cutthroat Bill Belichick was. But they were winning, so players wanted to come for them. Yeah. When they stopped winning, he had a hard time signing free agents. Do you think, again, let's play the player hat, if you've got offers on the table and one of them is from the Lightning, and one of them's from Buffalo, and one of them's from Carolina, and one of them's from Montreal. So you got like one team that's kind of always in on the fringe, never really wins, a bunch of teams that are, kind of right there, maybe make it, maybe not. Are you going to choose the Lightning because, they used to win, they haven't won recently? Oh, shoot, if I'm really good, though, they might just ship me out of town or not re-sign me. Like, does that come into play with the players out in the league?
I think, to answer your first question, is it creeping in the locker room currently? I think yes, I do. Because it's human nature. I don't think it's going to impact anything. But if you go ask individual players, I happen to know that Kush is unhappy right now. He thought it was a BS move. Is he going to think the same, in November? No.
Sammy is far more embedded than I thought he was, Kevin.
You guys have the
Oh
same
yeah,
number. You guys have the same phone number as I do. The difference is I called and asked, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, but is that going to continue? I don't think this particular offseason, because you can also look at it. Did he do the right things for the team and all that stuff, right? If it becomes a pattern, and to your point, they don't win, yeah, sure, of course. But no, I don't think at this point, I don't. I think on an individual level, yeah, it's going to be emotional for a while. I don't think Hedman was right. Training camp's going to be weird. It's going to be a weird situation with not having him there. But guys, we've been around saying the same thing where we've been coaching. Like, I can't believe so and so's gone, right? Hey, how weird was it when Carter wasn't on the team, right?
How weird was it, Big Z, right?
Yeah.
When Z ends up leaving, and in that moment, you have a defenseman that I think he still wanted to be top 4, and they were willing to give him that. So you let your captain walk for the only cup that you've ever raised. Well, in our era, Jeff, talking about the Bees, they adapt, man. They definitely adapt. I mean,
pros.
Look, you have a world-class goaltender in Vasilevsky. You've shored up your D. I know, Jeff, I've been saying it ad nauseum. Like, that's where you build championships. I don't care what anyone says. If you have Swiss cheese goaltender and shit D, you are not going to go anywhere. Plain and simple. You need to have 6D, a solid.
Did you say Toronto? Did you say Toronto?
Well,
I heard Toronto.
That's and we'll get into that. I think Toronto's done a really nice job. That's going to be a different team this year, specifically with Berube at the helm.
100%.
And if their goaltending can stay healthy, then look, they took the Bees right to a final game. And if it wasn't for Swayman, then we have maybe a different story. But I know what you're saying, Jeff. I'm sure it's creeping, but as long as Florida still is an income tax state-free place to play, and the weather here is not too shabby, to check the box versus check the box against Buffalo, Carolina, and whoever else you said, Montreal. I think Tampa's a pretty good destination.
Yeah, but wait. So what did Big C get signed to at the end? Right, so his final seasons.
So he ended up going to the Islanders and then finished in, I believe it was Washington.
That's correct.
Right.
And
but that last contract, but I guess what I'm saying is this: at that last moment of his career, it wasn't $8 million.
One year, $750,000 with the Islanders.
So what the sad part is I don't think it was necessarily about the money. He wanted to play in the top 4.
I get it, and he wanted to have a chance. I get all that. I guess my final point on the Stammer thing is the guy, he wanted $8 million.
Oh,
sorry, he's not worth $8 million, right? As much as I love him, as much as he sucks, he is worth $8 million. And don't compare him to Hedman. Hedman is far more valuable than Stammer is to the team, right? Let's be honest.
I would agree.
Right?
I mean, hey, I will take a defenseman at that age, at the same age, knowing that they can play close to 40 and play solid minutes. Versus, let's be real. Stammer, knock on wood, he's been healthy the last 3 years. Before that, he had some tough luck injuries. I think we covered that last time, Jeff.
Yeah.
But
well, just to put,
there's always more tread on the tires for D than there are for forwards.
And I'm willing to put money on Stammer getting to 100 points this season. And he's going to score a hat trick on October 28th against Lightning and Amalie. I mean, look, now he has a chip on his shoulder. It's fantastic. Nashville, they cleaned house this year. Now, is that contract going to bite him at the end? Maybe. But they're in a win now, right? Or, they're, they loaded up this year. Go all in, right? Who cares what happens 4 years from now, right?
They're going all in, but they're age, right? We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Same thing. I said the last time, like Marchessault, you've got 2 guys that won cups. You got a guy that won a Conn Smythe in Marchessault. He's, the both of them are franchise leaders with the Golden Knights and with the Lightning. Yeah. Both were shunned by their team. You don't think there's going to be a fire burning between the two, and they played together before. So. Yeah. I just hope they stay healthy. I hope they become dynamic. I hope Saros, we're going all over the map, but Saros has a great year in net for Nashville. And, Smashville makes a run.
Yeah. And Nashville's always been I honestly, has always been by the way, this is signed by the good old, The good old Pecorino for Jonathan.
Very nice.
Oh, there you go.
So just to put a
there comes the
sorry, go ahead, Sammy.
There comes the finish connection.
Exactly. So just to put a bow on the Zdeno Chara contract, I somewhat misspoke. Zdeno Chara signed a 1-year, $1.5 million contract with the Capitals first. Then he went to the Isle for a 1-year, $1.5 million contract. So probably league minimum. Both years were $750,000 salaries with signing bonuses, which I'm guessing is a veteran league minimum. Without having that info in front of me would make sense. But I think to your point, he was relied upon on those teams to still log big minutes versus the Bruins. Talking about defensive pairings on the Lightning and talking about defense in general on the Lightning, you guys have both brought it up. The D is where this team was faltering. JBB made the comment in his interview, we need to keep the pucks out of our net. That a lot of that ties into Vasi playing better this year and playing like he got to at the end of the season, right? He was kind of back to vintage Vasilevsky come the playoff run. But let me run you down where we stand right now on the projected defensive pairings for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and you tell me if you're warm and fuzzy level, right? Hedman and Darren Radish, McDonough and Cernak, JJ Moser and Nick Perbix. Listen, some of these guys are decent defensemen. They're all good NHL level defensemen, right? You don't have any AHLers up there. You don't have any young kids that are trying to maybe make it or not. But does that really scare you if you're Toronto, Pittsburgh, Boston, Florida, especially coming into Tampa?
Missing? I think there's one more. We're missing something.
Well, he's in Utah.
No, you're missing the guy
from Utah. Yeah, the guy from. Oh, hang on. Who's that?
Come on, the big hitting Norwegian guy. He came in last year out of nowhere.
So right? I think what I'm referencing, right, and I'll give them credit, dailyfaceoff.com, they put projected pairings out based on rosters. They're projecting that he's not, game one, not your top six defenseman.
He's not top six on this roster. It's not, right? But defensively, are they better than we were last year? Hell yeah. As a group. How do you put the pairings? I don't know. I probably wouldn't put Mac and Cernak in the same pairing. I mean, these are two, potential shotgun guys, right?
Yep.
You probably want one of them with Hedman. I don't know what we have in Moser. I think he's offensively more driven. I just don't know.
He's 26 points in 80 games, -5 for a team that was, probably lit up a lot more. I think the fans could probably, look, you're not going to forget Sergei, but, with those numbers, those are very much like Sergachev, so.
Yeah, JJ Moser, 24 years old from Switzerland. It was his third season last year. And like you said, 5 goals, 26 points, 35 penalty minutes and 80 games played. So he's in the game. He's 80 games. He's played a full season, even though he's only 24. He's gonna be okay.
And -5, only -5 again. Arizona, right?
Yep.
You're playing for the Coyotes that I'm sure they didn't score as much as what the Lightning did, or have a goaltender.
In fact, there's a couple of defensemen on Arizona that wasn't plus. So, was he the best or not the best? That's who they got in trade. He's a potential, he could be really good. Is he ready? I don't know. But the one thing you always forget is who's going to improve, right? Who's going to take a step forward, right?
Who's in the minors?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. But also Radish. Radish, honestly, last season, I kind of recognize the name because he has a brother playing on the team, right? Well, other than that, who's this guy, right? Looks undersized. He isn't. I don't know why I thought he was. I thought he played decent, right? He's going to be better. I don't. Publix, you go buy Radish at Publix. Is he going to get better?
Well, look at Radish's points, though. 82 games played, 6 goals, 27 assists, 33 points, only is -3.
Yeah.
I mean, again, they were doing it, but it was a mixed
came
bag
through
back
the system.
there. Yeah.
He came through the system, right? He was drafted, he played in the minors, came up last year, logged 82 games. I mean, this is what Lightning does, right? It's not only about, who you bring in the trade deadline. Look at all the stars. They're all homegrown. Now, minus obviously Gensel, right? So trust the system too, right? Then you have Howard. Well, he's a forward. I get that, but what is he going to do this year, right? From World Juniors last year, right? He didn't crack the team last year. Is he going to crack the team this year? There's not a lot in the system because we traded away the farm, but there is a few.
Well,
right?
But you're bringing back a guy like McDonough, right? That can mentor on top of what Hetty can do, but it's just a different voice. Mac holds. He's high in that locker room as far as respect goes and playing the game right and hard and doing it the right way. I mean, you've got two potential Hall of Famers with Hetty and Mac in there. They're holding the line. I mean, the rest toe the line and listen, boys.
So,
and hey, by the way, JVB, as much as talked about, he made the right moves. Shipping Mac out 2 years ago, was that a great move? When you realize 2 years later and you bring him back, because we had to shred money at that time, right? Now you're bringing him back on the same contract, right? And he's 2 years older, right? So, admittedly, he must have admitted to himself, like, oh shit, I made a mistake there. Now I need to repair it, right?
Well, the only thing I heard there was Mac didn't adjust well to the Nashville game, right? Like they were very much up tempo. Like it's the former coach that took over for Quenneville is now at the helm at Nashville, and I've heard it on multiple things where he wants puck moving no matter who you are, you're moving. And not that Matt can't move, right? But like it's a different type of game. If you're used to being that stay at home steady, I'm going to make sure that no one gets back and past us. Different systems, different players, they jive to different things. So
absolutely,
we'll see.
Vision 2020, we should have kept them, right? At that point, you should have shipped Sergachev, right? Or
could they afford him though? Right? I mean, it's
the same contract.
Yeah,
he had 4 years left on that deal. We couldn't afford it. That's why we shipped it. Now we're taking it back on the same contract.
Yeah, but isn't it because the cap went up just now this year?
Cap went up,
million.
And
it was frozen in the last 2 years.
But you had to shred Sergachev to fit.
Yeah. Well, and at that time for 2 years, I would have done the same thing. You go with the young horse at least. You got to give to get. That's the thing.
John
and Moser could be that guy. He could be Sergey down the road, right? The D
could be, yeah. He's young enough. Moser, yeah. John Hines was the coach you were talking about for was the coach in Nashville for 3 years, and then Andrew Burnett took over in 2023.
Burnett.
So they must have changed systems at the Hines to Burnett swap over.
Yeah,
and that's where McDonough started having his issues, right? So it's a point. Kucherov's your top line. I mean, hello, like that's right up there with Toronto. Now, hopefully, the rest of the team is better than Toronto, and I don't want to go back across the border and talk Maple Leafs hockey today, but the Lightning forward level, I mean, and their third line, like it's not often you skip the second line, but I'm going to. Sherry, Paul, and Esimont on the third line, like that has got to be one of the best third lines in the whole entire league. Like they're just going to come at you line after line, and you're going to get a third line versus a second line matchup in some of these games when they're the home team, and that third line is going to absolutely just outwork the other team's second line or third line if they match them up that way, right? So the Lightning are definitely not hurting. But so I guess this question probably answered itself, right? But the Lightning make the playoffs next year, right? You both agree to that statement?
Yeah, 100%.
Did they make it as a top three, or do they make it as wild card 1, 2? Or does it not matter to you guys at all?
I say top three for sure, because here's the biggest thing. I think the guy that has the biggest chip on his shoulder is the goaltender. Vazzy knows he had an off year, and that guy has compete level through. He doesn't like to lose, and not only did he lose to someone within the state, he lost to his countrymen, right? So, whatever happens with the politics in the world, if Russia is ever able to come back, you don't want it to be a question that who you go with as your goaltender. And I'd like to think he had a good year. He still had 30 wins, but he came off surgery. And look, I think they needed that sort of kick in the teeth. I know they lost in the first round the year before. They didn't deserve to. I thought they probably should have lost to Toronto the first year they played them.
Oh yeah,
because Toronto outplayed them, right? And it was reversed this year.
Yeah,
I thought Tampa should have won that series, and Toronto. They bend, don't break, and Oh
no, that was last year. That was Florida this year,
and then this year, close. Florida wasn't even close. I mean, that was one where Yeah.
That wasn't even close. But you're right about Bassi though. Honestly, the defensive part of Lightning's game has never been their strength. But Bassi have bailed them out so much over the years, right? How you lock down. You look at those, wins series, right? When you win 1-0, right? Both in the conference finals against Islanders, and then win again in the cup game 1-0. What was it, Montreal that year? I mean, come on. You locked out those games. That's how they play, right? It wasn't about the high scoring. It was about not giving up goals, and yet not being the most strongest defensive team. Bassi, my God, and that's what you saw in Bob this year, right? He dropped off a little bit in 3 games, obviously, and then they found a way to get it done. But up until that point, right, it was pretty wall.
Would you say, Sammy, because I know you're there a lot more than what we are, you're a season ticket holder, like when Johansson or Matt Tompkins, I'm just looking at the stats there, in 26 games played, Johansson goes 12-7 and 5 overtime losses. Tompkins 6-3-2. 3-2, 1 overtime loss. They play a different game when Vazzy's in net. It's more run and gun, right? Like
100%. Yeah, absolutely. We talk about this all the time. You play, especially as a defenseman, you play differently depending on how much you trust your goalie. Right?
Yeah.
A little bit more about risk, also about, they should always block shots. But there is that little difference. Yes, a team plays with more confidence if you have a goalie you really, really trust that knows you can bail you out once in a while. You make that one key save every game. Hell yeah. And you know that they're going to steal at least one game in the playoff round, in any round, right? Of course. You can't, you lose Vasi, then any one of these other signings are done, right? If he goes down for a whole season. I mean, Johansson, as much as he I think both of those backups were better than anyone expected, but they're not carrying it.
Well, you're essentially doing what Vancouver did against Nashville, right? When they're on their 3rd string goaltender in the first round, and as soon as they got up a goal, it was like just protect the house at all costs. Don't even worry about offense, just protect the house. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting way to watch them play. If Vasi comes back and does what we think Vasilevsky can do, then look out. It's going to be a Florida 1-2 atop the division. I don't want to get into division talk. That'll be a later show for later in the summer, but Florida's winning the Atlantic again next year, hands down, which means that Toronto, Boston, Ottawa with our buddy Ullmark, and I don't know which team I just missed, but there's basically,
Detroit.
Thank you. There's 4 or 5 teams that are fighting for the remaining 2 spots, and then wild card 1 and 2. And again, the Metro with all the New York teams, New Jersey's got firepower now. Again, different topic for a different show, but the point is parity is here in droves, especially in the East. The West a little different. There's still the haves and the have-nots out West. We'll see if that gets a little closer. I think, again, Utah's making some good moves, but the Lightning are going to be okay next year, which then leads me to my next question. And this is a little more on the fun side. This has less to do with hockey and more about what the fans care about. Let's put our fan hat back on, gentlemen. Your captain's gone. You've just re-signed your assistant captain. I believe, Sammy, Braden Point was your other alternate captain, correct? On the Lightning last year?
And Kuch.
Okay. Who?
They were floating that. This is not even a conversation. It's Hedman's team.
Hedman's the captain next season.
100%.
No questions asked.
No, hands down.
And who wears your 2 A's? Or do they float those around with a couple different players next year?
Yeah, probably. I'd see Mac being one, and I think they probably keep Point and Kuch.
So you think they? And that's where I was going, right? Because I agree. Kevin and I kind of mentioned this, I think, on the last episode. Hedman's your captain. I mean, it's the Zdeno Chara equivalency, right? Like strong defenseman, leader of the team, veteran presence. He's your guy. Exactly, no brainer, right? But then it gets a little more, like I said, fandom, a little more fun, right? Is it Point? Is it Kuch? Do they give a letter back to McDonough, right? He was there, he left, he came back. Does that matter?
I'm not even sure did Point really have a letter? Because the thing with Point is he hates talking to media.
To be honest with you, Sammy, I don't know if he had an A or not.
I can't say I ever remember him having.
No, he avoids it. They're trying, like, if he's not forced to talk to media, he refuses. I mean, collective bargaining agreement forces them to do certain things, right? But other than that, you can't be, have a letter if you're not going to talk to the media, which means you're not very extrovert. You're probably not that vocal in the locker room. You're probably not, talking to the refs.
I think
He may have an egg.
He's probably no, not probably. He's definitely vocal in the locker room. I would say. Just he doesn't want to be that guy, in the middle of it. I guess.
I don't know. But I think you do. But then again, no matter who gets that C or an A, how can anyone ever in any team come after Stammer? We talk about articulate, like, come on, guys. There's been captains we can talk about Eisenman and all that, right? Messier, but the way he just owns, the interview or he owns the conversation. That's going to transcend the locker room, man. There is something to be said about that leadership where there could be some risk here. Sure.
Yeah, but I think you've got a guy like Hedman that's been with him for the whole time, right? And I heard in his interview that he's not a guy you can replace. You can only learn from and hopefully do as well as what he brought to the team. So, hey, teams go on. That's the beauty of it. So, I always say that what's the next man up, right? Belichick all the time.
Right.
Next man up, and that's how the next stars in the game are identified by giving an opportunity that they may not have had. So,
and once we get to the trade deadline, JVB pulls a rabbit out of his hat, right? Or a couple of stud players out of his ass. I'll change that to higher, or give him a
raise, JBB. Yeah, as he trades the 2032 first round pick for the next fourth liner that leads you to the cup for the fourth time.
Yeah, but why not? Look, you want to, because here's the thing: people say it's Eisenman's team. Eisenman built a solid team. They could not win. Look at Detroit today. I get it. It's long term, but for how long? Right. At some point, you got to make a move, right? And go all in. And JBB did, and it paid off.
Yeah, and you're right, Sammy and Kevin. Your knowledge of the alternate captaincy is far better than mine. Victor Hedman, as we all knew, were an A this past season, but so did Kucherov. Braden Point is not listed as an alternate captain. So, like we said, Victor, where's your C? Kuch, I'm sure, keeps an A, and then McDonough,
I'm betting on
for sure is probably on that list.
What about Sorelli?
Sorelli's been around for a while.
I was actually thinking about Sorelli too.
But man, it's interesting times in Florida for multiple reasons. The Panthers winning the cup and them loading up for a defense run for sure. The Lightning really turning over to a new team, to a new culture. Kind of, not that out with the old and in with the new is ever usually good, but at the same time, you need to move on. I didn't want to see Bergeron go. I didn't want to see Krejci go, right, from the Bruins standpoint. But you realize, yes, Bergeron may still have tread on the tires, and Krejci may still, and Stammer obviously does. But you know what? How do you want to be good for one more year, or do you want to be good for the next 5 or 6? What do we always say? Would Chicago trade what happened the last couple of years for that run in the teens? Absolutely not. No. Right? Absolutely not. So you've got to load when you can and reload when the time is right. And I think as much as the fan hat says it sucks, the realistic hat says they're doing the right thing, and look out, Tampa Bay, because you're going to be a powerhouse for the next 2 to 3 seasons at least until it's time to do it all over again.
Yeah. I think the big difference there, though, is if we're going to Bruins, is Krejci and Bergeron aren't playing for another jersey, right? And it just pains you to see your hero go and play for another jersey. I saw it with Bork, for him to get traded to the Avalanche. Happy that he won, but it just didn't seem right. But,
both of them classy, though, in the sense that it's like, I'm not saying Stammer had 31 options, but he definitely had more than one.
Oh, 100%.
Does he want to come back to Emily 3 times in the season? Right? Even, and compete. So now he's going to come once. Right. And if they ever play again, it's going to be in the Stanley Cup Finals.
That's exactly what I said last show. Is like, as a fan, thankfully you only get to see him once.
Yeah.
Does he not want to maybe come back and sort of stick it to him a little bit? I don't know. But
I think that's a double-edged sword. But I think that type of guy and Bork's the same, right? I think they care about that, right? So why it was a great compromise, right? It's still technically in the East, right? But you're in a different, you know, you
Yeah,
don't have to
you're
move all the way
different
to the
conference.
West, right?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So family kind of close, all that.
Well, we've all been to Nashville, boys. Don't have to tell you what a town that is to hang out in, eh?
And it's booming. It's the thing is.
That's a good choice.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate your time today. Sammy, it was a pleasure having you in the nest talking hockey with us. Hopefully you enjoyed yourself, and hopefully you would come back and visit us again in the future.
I thought this was a tryout. When are we going to have to find out if I'm on the roster?
We'll let you, Kevin and I, after you leave, Kevin and I sit upstairs, we crack open the cold ones, and we start to talk about you versus number 19, number 27, and number 11 out there who's moving their feet, right, Kev?
That's right. That's right.
I know one of them is in Greece, so don't worry about him.
I know.
And the other guy retired, right? Hey, we would be remiss. Huge congrats. Not that I ever liked Panthers. We gotta love the team though. And the coach. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Talk about class, right? That's a classy coach. You got some players on that team you cannot not love. I don't like the Panthers, and I will never will. But you can root to people, right? And the way that series went, I know you already had this pod, but come on. That's the best playoff Stanley Cup final run ever. At least in modern time, right? Come on. Nothing beats that.
How often do you shut it off, right? After your team goes out? And you might tune in after the hurt goes away, right? Depending on how early your team exits. But I mean, that was a series. Oh, it could have been done real quick. And
if you're a hockey fan and you did not enjoy that, I would almost argue you're not a hockey fan. Regardless of what you think about the teams. But that drama, they go up, they go down. And, let's be honest, the right team did end up winning. The right team,
100%.
Right? I was rooting for Oilers, don't get me wrong. And they'll be back next year. I'm not as convinced about Panthers, though. I'm not. I think Oilers will be back.
To run it back 3 times in a row, to go to a final 3 times in a row, I mean, we saw it, right? Look at Tampa. It's tough to do.
No, they're guaranteed to do it. They signed Corey Perry again. He goes to the finals every year.
Well, no, we're Edmonton. Edmonton, no problem. I mean, if Florida would have signed Corey Perry, they're definitely going there. But
that's what I'm saying. That's what I said. I don't think Florida will. I do think. We're saying the same thing.
Yeah,
absolutely. No, it'll be interesting offseason. We're just getting kicked off. It'll be fun to continue to kind of put the offseason together, put some teams together, talk about some other rosters, some other teams, get into all kinds of different things in the world of hockey. I hope to talk some collegiate hockey, hope to talk some juniors hockey, but we are just getting started in the offseason. No vacations here. Rumor has it there may be a special show on location from Mr. Trussler coming up at the end of the month. Is that still in the works, Kev, or what? Live from Canada?
I'm hoping, and actually, Sammy, while you're on, I know you're going to be over in Sweden. It'd be fantastic to possibly get you and Johnny over in the motherland as well. So we'll have to coordinate accordingly.
Absolutely, I'll send you my details to my agent, and you can negotiate that contract.
Yeah, you're Nighthawk, so I know it's later.
It will be, and I might be a little tipsy. There is a little chance that I might even be in Greece seeing a certain other guy.
Whoa.
So we could maybe do a little
on location from Mykonos there with a
location.
Oh
my God. Right. Yeah, that will.
We don't know yet, but there's we're looking into.
Awesome. Well, we'll put it all together for you, and we want you to join us in the nest, gentlemen. Thank you for your time. Have a great evening, and as always, we'll see you later. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.